Hello, I'm Adrian and I'm going to talk to you today about these two objects which are very contemporary, recently made pieces. One a three-dimensional printed object, one made of white and tinted porcelain, and linked together by Josiah Wedgwood, an 18th century ceramic entrepreneur and scientist, let's say, as well as artist in ceramics. And this is made at the Wedgwood factory by technicians working with one of our artists, Hitomi Hosono, who is a Japanese-born artist. She works and lives in London. As a student at the Royal College of Art, she went to the Wedgwood factory in the north of England to study in their archives and to start working with them. And now, as a world-renowned artist, she's working with Wedgwood to make these sorts of objects that you see one here. This is an emulation of a very, very famous ancient Roman glass vase called the Portland vase, which is in the British Museum in London. And it's of this shape in a darker blue with white sculptural details in ancient glass. But in the 18th century, Josiah Wedgwood, he made versions of this famous antique Roman glass vase like this in blue and white Wedgwood porcelain. And so now Hitomi Hosono has gone to work with them at Wedgwood, and it's the original shape but her designs clad onto it. And these are leaves made individually in white porcelain, so clad one by one, forming up a very painterly artistic pattern that Hitomi Hosono herself has devised. This is one of, I think, 6 that are being made. And there's one of them is now in the collection of the British Museum, which is fantastic, along with Wedgwood's 18th century copies, along with the ancient Roman original, made centuries ago. And the point of my discussing this with you is that also this three-dimensional printed object that you see here, made by English artist Michael Eden. He was a graduate at the Royal College of Art. Lidded object, there goes the lid. This is also refers to the 18th century work of Josiah Wedgwood. Wedgwood made some objects where cabbages, cauliflowers and other forms from nature were forming the leaves from which an object emerged, made in porcelain in the late 18th century. And this is an object like a lidded tureen that Michael Eden, the artist, has based on Josiah Wedgwood's use of that technique and has taken it into using new technical methods of three-dimensional printing, in this case using a nylon and stained with colour. You've seen how Hitomi Hosono has worked with the Wedgwood factory. Now I'm going to show you how the Wedgwood factory has inspired Hitomi in her own work that she makes in her studio herself, where we're really talking about the contemporary artist and her creativity. This is a bowl with a gilded interior made of white porcelain by Hitomi Hosono working in London. She has taken an age-old technique which Wedgwood also took a look at and developed. Sprigging, it's called. So it's by forming each of these flowers that you see here, the hundreds and hundreds of flower heads. They're formed in a mould. They're then carved for detail and applied to a already formed profile of an object. It's painstaking work, and it's work that is very technically demanding. Porcelain doesn't want to actually just be put into an oven and come out the other end smiling. It wants its revenge on the artist. It's notoriously difficult. So, in fact, a piece like this is made with extraordinary levels of care and also in the drying process before it's fired into a solid object. But it's the attention to sculptural detail which has maybe brought Hitomi Hosono's work into our eyes as a really remarkable contemporary artist.